Hi, this is Dr. Embody. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can use assignment and naming. And to do this, let's try using the idle shell as a calculator. So I've got the shell open here, and somebody called the other day and they wanted to talk about an exam. So it's like, all right, so we had an exam and the total score was 200. So I can now name it as 200. If I wanted to take a look at that value, I can just say, type the name, and the shell will respond with its value. I can also print it, and notice how when I do something in idle, I get some help, like what I might, some options that we have in terms of printing. I'm not going to talk about those today, but you can try them out. It doesn't hurt. It's experimental, so I can print the total. So now Fred wanted to know about his average, and so I can take his average. The score was 144 over the total, and I can see now that Fred's average is 72. I also, if I didn't want to name it, I could have also simply done 144 over the total, or of course I could have just done 144 over 200, either way. Now Joe, on the other hand, I'll abbreviate that. Joe, on the other hand, did better. So he has an average that looks something like that. Now you might say, well, gee, maybe I don't want to have it out to 3 decimal places. So let's take Joe's average. And notice the help that I have here. I have the ability to round this off. And we see the number. Okay, so there's my Joe's average. That's the number. And then in square brackets, it shows something optional, which is the number of digits. So maybe I want to show Joe's average to 2 places. And I see now that it's 86. But of course, Joe's average, the name, the value that I've named, hasn't changed. So let's take Joe's average and give it a new value, which is the rounded version of Joe's average, rounded out to 2 places. Now when I take a look at Joe's average, we see that it comes out as 86. So I can use the Python shell to play around with the arithmetic operations, and in some sense use it as a calculator. And I frequently do that. Sometimes we want to get into mathematical calculations, so we have the ability to import mathematical functionality into the shell, and it comes along with some constants like math.py, and we can do things like math.square root of, say, 144, and look at that, it comes out as 12.0. You might ask the question, okay, hey, can I round this stuff? And the answer, of course, is yes. And you go around it to 0 places. Okay, that didn't do as much good there. Now, what are some other things that are in there? Well, there is math.sine, and you might ask the question, okay, is it working in degrees? No, sine of 30 degrees is half, so no, that's not the case. Again, notice how I'm playing around with this. And oh, by the way, if you either hesitate, as I did at that point, or you hit the tab, you'll actually get to see what are all the different things that I have in that, the math functionality that I've added to it. Hyperbolic signs, and logarithms, and floors, and ceilings, and all sorts of good stuff in here. So let's take the sine of pi over 6. Right? And sure enough, well, that looks kind of like a half that we expect. We can round that off. And let's round it off to a couple of 2 or 3 places here. And the other thing you notice in the shell is that when I type in closing parentheses, it shades it so that now I actually get to see matching parentheses. So I've matched all the parentheses there. And sure enough, when we round it, it comes out to be the half that I expect. So there's a little bit of the use of the shell. We see some naming, we see some assignment, we did some reassignment.